All right. Hello, everybody. I am Drew Duncan. This is the Sync 57 Sports Show. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. We're going to talk a little bit about the Atlanta Hawks taking on the Boston Celtics, the failure that was Atlanta in that game, and the victory that I think spoke more for Boston than we really realize at this point. And, of course, we're going to be talking about Kevin Durant. Whew. Man. It just keeps going in Brooklyn, doesn't it? All right, everybody, let's get to it. Look, for lack of a better term, all hell has officially broke loose in Brooklyn. Really, the NBA. We could get to a lot of different things in the NBA. But obviously, we're talking about Brooklyn right now, specifically Kevin Durant in an interview with Bleacher Report had a lot to say. For instance, here's a quote on whether or not it was difficult to request the trade. KD, trying to explain himself, said, quote, "It wasn't difficult at all to request a trade because it was all about ball. I was like, yo, I don't know how we are preparing. I don't like shoot-arounds. I like practices. I need more. I want to work more on shit. Hold me accountable. Get on my ass in film if that's what's going to help get on everybody else's head. I want to do more closeouts. I want to work on more shell drills at practice." This was the type of shit I was coming at them with. I was like, yo, y'all need to make sure everybody around me can make my life easier. Hell nah. I want to make sure everybody's life is easier. Ask Steve Nash. You can go call him right now. I would say, yo, I need more closeout drills. We need to practice more. That's what I was on. I feel like this is probably carryover from the Golden State Warriors. Right? The way that they probably ran practices, the way that they do things. Maybe what was going on in Oklahoma City while he was there. You know, I don't really know the ins and outs of that, those kinds of things. Practices are generally closed off for a lot of sports in general, especially certain aspects of it. When the media is allowed, it's, you know, they only get to see very select things because obviously coaches don't want their play calls and their sets and their drills and all those kinds of things really getting out because they have a particular way of doing things. They have coded words and terms and things that they're doing, and obviously they don't want any of that to inadvertently get exposed. Whatever you see on TV is whatever you see on TV, but game to game they may be preparing slightly differently from one team to the next. So while they have an overall scheme and game plan for the majority of the year, obviously they're going to change things up, right, as the games progress and the season goes along, and then of course special things for the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. So apparently there's just none of that going on in Brooklyn. It's just shoot-arounds. We're just kind of loosey-goosey. Everybody kind of do your thing. Let me get a look at what you're doing, and we'll make adjustments from there, and hopefully come game time we can get it done. That's essentially what Kevin Durant is putting out there. He went on to say that he didn't feel like everybody was on the same vibe with him. He claims that Jacques Vaughn said he had some complaints in the summer and that his complaints were not just about him. It was about how they were moving as a unit, that he wanted us to be respected in the basketball world. He went on to talk about, you know, how everybody's full of it and it's not the type of team that he wants to be on and everybody's playing like garbage, et cetera, et cetera. Everything came down to practice. Practice, y'all. Practice makes perfect, doesn't it? Kevin Durant obviously trying to make himself look good. Kevin Durant obviously trying to put the pieces together for the puzzle and say, look, we're not having the type of practices that we should be having. In other words, we're not prepared to play basketball. And that's why this buffoonery is going on, because we're not really ready. And come game time, it's basically just get out there and get it done. That's Kevin Durant's side of the story. When he was asked about firing the head coach Steve Nash. He just said, I like good practices. I like good preparation. Now, while I understand it as football to basketball, what did Tom Brady said? He said that when he's done loving the preparation aspect of football, that is when he'll retire. So to be fair to Kevin Durant, he is 100% correct. Film study, but by the same token, KD's been in the league long enough, right, that we would be able to easily say, well, dude, you can hold yourself accountable in film study. And if you want to vocalize it, you're the leader of the team. You tell everybody, you text everybody on the team, hey, man, you studying film? Hey, man, you got any questions about film? Hey, you guys want to come over to my house, watch some film? Does everybody want to have a after film study after we're done with practice or the shoot around or whatever it is? Anybody want to come together and go hang out and watch some film and break some stuff down? I mean, that's part of the leader's responsibility on any team at any level. So while KD is expressing that the coach or coaches are not doing their job in that regard, clearly neither is Kevin Durant. He's talking about keeping himself accountable through the coaching. Sounds to me like that's something that he needs to do with himself as well and to the other guys on the team. He went on to say it's been fun grinding with Jacques Vaughn, that he's been, trying to leverage himself into playing better and to get everybody else to playing better. That he's learning the game more, different types of defenses with Jacques Vaughn. But it just seems contradictory to his first statement. And if he wants to trade out of there, even with Jacques Vaughn, then what does Jacques Vaughn really matter right now in Brooklyn as far as KD goes? Then he went on to talk about how individually he's got to constantly dodge 5 defenders, but he said it was fun going through all that because it only makes him playing, basketball better, and it's a better experience for him in the league. And it just seems like he didn't really know what he wanted to say. It just really feels like he didn't really know what he wanted to say. He went on to talk about how he's been experiencing something over the last couple of years that he's never played with before, and that he's not playing well, and, getting a 7th seed and then getting swept, and how that was a big part of everything. Mad that people, wasn't, they're not calling him a leader. What the hell does that mean? Mad that, he didn't tell Kyrie to get vaccinated and all that stuff. Which Kyrie with Brooklyn has been a mess in itself. Regardless of what you believe about the documentary, regardless of what you believe about the vaccinations. The one thing I will say in Kyrie's defense about the vaccination, understand, I'm not saying that nobody should get it or shouldn't get it. Okay, I'm not advocating either way. What I am saying is they told Kyrie he couldn't play because of that, but other teams had other players that were not vaccinated, and they were going to Brooklyn, and they were allowed to play. Simply because their state didn't mandate it. The state of New York did. And they told him, no, you can't play here. But they let other players play. Simply because they were out of state and it wasn't a requirement to be vaccinated. Folks, that is a double standard. Whether you want to see it that way or not, that's exactly what it is. Okay, but the biggest thing, the biggest blow, obviously, in this whole article was Kevin Durant. He said, look at our starting lineup. Edmund Sumner, Royce O'Neal, Joe Harris, Nick Claxton, and me. It's not disrespect, but what are you expecting from that group? You expect us to win because I'm out there? So if you're watching from the lens, you're expecting us to play well because number 7 is out there. Yeah, bro. We are. There have been plenty of people, including myself, that have been willing to debate whether or not Kevin Durant is better than LeBron James. There have been a lot of people that were willing to debate that Kevin Durant couldn't beat him, so he joined him, and he went to Golden State. And when he went there, it was so that way he could chase a ring. But then a lot of people felt that him leaving and going to Brooklyn was his way of saying, I'm the guy who can be the leader. You know, this isn't the Donovan McNabb situation where T.O. was saying, I'm open. I don't think anybody expects Kevin Durant to control Kyrie Irving. But the fact that he has been willing to blast his teammates on more than one occasion, don't forget the incident where he got busted out using a burner account on Twitter, trying to say things on behalf of himself under a pseudo account that he got busted on when he slipped. And he was saying things about the players that he had with the Oklahoma City Thunder. It was me and Russ, and that was it, right? Remember that? So when all is said and done, Kevin Durant looks more like a guy who's saying, I can't get it done unless I have a superstar team around me, a superstar coach in front of me. I don't have accountability. It's not my responsibility. Everything is on everybody else except for Kevin Durant. That is exactly what is going on right now. Kevin Durant has literally taken none of the responsibility of what's going on. And we expect Brooklyn to win because number 7 is out there, because he is that damn good. So many people have called him one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Has one of the purest jump shots of all time. Has the ability to do anything and everything on that basketball court. Despite being lanky and tall and kind of, looking at the guy, you wouldn't think he's a basketball player. You would think he's just some random tall dude walking the street. But once you see him on a court, he's magnificent. But even then, like I talked about yesterday, if he just would have worn the correct damn shoe size, we would probably having a different discussion right now. There's just all these oddball things that are going on with the Brooklyn Nets. Nobody seems to be taking responsibility. Nash didn't. Jacques Vaughn's not going to have to right now because he's brand new to the situation. Kyrie Irving's not. Kevin Durant isn't. Then on top of that, supposedly the Nets are frustrated with Ben Simmons, saying that he's not coming around. Allegedly, they were trying to shop him off to the Dallas Mavericks, or ship him off, to the Dallas Mavericks. That didn't work out. Supposedly, they didn't want him. So if Mark Cuban doesn't want him, then who the hell will? The Nets are a disaster from top to bottom. When nobody is willing to step up and take responsibility and all everybody wants to do is throw everybody under the bus, it's an issue. There's no camaraderie. There's no togetherness. There's no teamness. I said this the other day, long before this stuff all came out, it looked to me like the Brooklyn Nets were just a bunch of individuals out there playing basketball. So maybe in that regard, Kevin Durant is right, but it looks to me like he's just as guilty of that as everybody else, predicated upon what I read in this article per Bleacher Report in the interview he did with them. And now that he's thrown his whole team under the bus, now what? You think guys are going to want to play with him now? It's almost as if he is guaranteeing that they trade him now. Every move that he is doing is strategic. Yeah, I want to go. And I want to go because the guys around me just aren't good enough. They're not up to snuff. The coach that was around me wasn't good enough. He wasn't up to snuff. And nobody's holding me accountable. Why the hell should I have to hold myself accountable? I don't know, KD. What I do know is you're making a lot of money to play in the NBA. And you're just like, not on me, bro. Who cares if I'm a 2-time MVP in the NBA Finals? Who cares if I've been an MVP in the regular season? My goodness, excuse me. Man, I got sick about 2 weeks ago. I'm telling you what, it's still lingering. I mean, right here, he said, I was just like, this can't be it for me. I have to really enjoy every single moment I'm out there. That's part of being a pro. I have to be coachable. I have to knock down shots. I have to be aggressive, and I have to talk to my teammates the right way. That's the journey, and that's the battle. Meanwhile, he goes out and throws everybody in the bus and says, you guys can't play. Oh, no. I haven't talked to anybody on the team. I haven't done anything to get anybody to get their shit together. Don't worry about that, bro. Then he went on to say he could play with anybody, anywhere, anytime. That is his legacy. It's literally what he said. That should be my legacy. It won't be, bro. And you know, I've been one of those people that have stood up for Kevin Durant countless amount of times. I've talked about the MVPs with the Golden State Warriors and how they played the team game of basketball, and how a lot of people who don't understand basketball apparently were just not able to correctly assess that team. And Kevin Durant just walking around town right now like, you guys just don't get it. You know, Kevin Durant's talked about the media and how bad the media is. He's, backlash with Skip Bayless, who I can't stand Skip's approach to Kevin Durant at all. He's such a kiss ass towards him, and then he wants him to debate him on a show. And, he's so tongue in cheek whenever he talks about KD. And now all this is going on, and Kevin Durant's been after the media, has been after everybody his whole life. He's been tired of the criticism. And the problem is in a moment like this, when he has the opportunity to step up, instead of trying to say the right things, which is all that's going on here, okay? Instead of trying to say the right things, actually do the right things as a pro ball player, as he talked about. He's just laying around going, in the end, guys, I know what I need to do. I know what I need to do, but I'm not going to do it. No, sir. Not today. Not happening. Yeah, I should, do film study, but, coach ain't going to make me, so whatever, bro. I mean, I know I should get the other guys to do it, but why would I do that when I can throw them under the bus and really force a trade? Yeah, I'll talk up Jacques Vaughn just to make my exit a little less painful. For what? Because you're probably buddies with Jacques Vaughn now and you want to make sure that he holds on to his job? Do you think that they are taking your word for it at this point, my man? That ain't happening, bro. That ain't happening at all. This is just sad to see in Brooklyn. What should be a dynasty with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, potentially James Harden, who I know has been just a disaster in the playoffs over his career. It should have been so much more. It really should have been so much more. And yet here we are sitting around talking about a team that is not even 500. And for what? Because they're a joke. They're the laughing stock of the NBA. Nobody cares about this team other than to find ways to make fun of them. That's all there is to it. This is sad. And this begins to shape the way that people begin to look at Kevin Durant. This right here is the straw breaking the camel's back. Because he's out of control at this point in terms of his approach to basketball, in terms of his approach to his team. And, I'm not usually a guy that's this stern. I'm a player's guy in just about every sport and every level. And I just look, man, see it from their perspective. Bro, it's not happening this time. Somewhat like Skip, I have been a proponent. My radio days, I can't tell you how many phone calls I'd get every single day. Oklahoma City Thunder fans bashing the living hell out of Kevin Durant. mad that he left the team the way that he did, upset that he was able to, put all of them on blast and then go to Golden State and win titles and do all this stuff. Let's be honest. KD had the chance to show who he really is. I still think he's a great basketball player, but being a great ball player doesn't mean that you're a great leader. And I think it's obvious who the leader of that team was in Golden State. I said when he was at Oklahoma City that they played way too much hero ball, and I was the one who started that long before Barkley ever said it. Not to brag, but to brag, okay? Long before Charles Barkley ever started saying it, before anybody started saying it, I was calling those guys individuals who played hero ball. I mean, come on, you had Russell Westbrook with 3 guys on top of him, Kevin Durant wide open somewhere, and Russ just chucking it up from, 35 feet out. Kevin Durant's talking about being a one-man show right now, having to get through all 5 defenders. James Harden was a turnover nightmare. When he went to Houston, obliterated the turnover record. I justified KD's exit. Look, man, he needs to go and play on a team that's actually a team. But instead of staying and sticking it out, what did he do? He took the money, he ran. Everybody said this is his chance to show that he's a leader. He can go and prove it again. He gets a decent amount of guys around him. He's back with James Harden. People are saying it's not the same James Harden that it was before. He's a different guy now. He doesn't turn the ball over as much. This could be the opportunity. Redemption for KD and Harden. Nope. Ben Simmons, a second chance, an opportunity to recreate himself, be who he really is as a ball player, physical, great with the rock, distributing the pill the way that we know that he can when he boils down to it. Now you got people accusing him of just not even wanting to play basketball or even be anywhere. And he's got no love for the game anymore. James Harden wanted the hell out of there. Kyrie Irving's on his own thing right now. It's a mess. But this is what happens when you put a bunch of guys together who aren't thinking like a team. They're thinking like individuals. See, right now, they're thinking in a business sense. What's good for me? Not what's good for everybody else on the team. What is good for me? And I understand that to an extent, that's the world that we live in. But KD went from a team that is full of camaraderie, and having experienced that, and having been in around that, how did he not carry that over to the Brooklyn Nets? Yeah, it just blows my mind, man. The issue with Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant. And this is not exclusively his fault, what's going on in Brooklyn, but it's obvious that the last person who could potentially salvage this team and say, look, man, a lot of this is on me. I have to do better. I've got to get everybody in check. I've got to start doing things. I've got to be that guy on the floor. It's early in the year. We've got a different coach. Let's figure this out. Nope. Instead, it's no disrespect to anybody, but you can always tell when somebody's about to say some real disrespectful stuff when they say no disrespect. You know what I'm saying? The minute somebody goes, no disrespect, is when you know you're probably about to get disrespected. He just basically called himself a one-man show. And I can appreciate him, still learning the game of basketball and new defensive sets from Jacques Vaughn and all that. But there comes a point in time where, I just think he probably shouldn't have said anything. If I'm just going to keep it really real. All right. Real quick here, I did promise we'd talk a little bit about Boston and Atlanta. Look, no Marcus Smart in Boston. I know a couple of other guys out, but to me, that's the big one. Tatum really showing himself. Obviously, Trae Young in Atlanta is going to get his points. What do you get? 27 points, 9 assists, somewhere in that neighborhood. But, it speaks volumes to how much of a team this is. They play together as a team. They get things done as a team. They win and they lose as a team. Something that is the complete antithesis of what I was just talking about in Brooklyn. While we all know what Tatum is capable of as an individual ball player, The way that those guys all rallied together to beat a pretty good Hawks team. I think Atlanta came in 9-5. Boston, I think, came in 11-5. So very, ultimately, when all is said and done, and you look at the records, you could easily look at that game and go, man, that probably should have been a better game than it was. But it wasn't. Atlanta hung around for a little while. But ultimately, when all was said and done, the defense from Boston really kicked in. And offensively, they were dominant. They played with so much more energy. The hustle plays that they were making. The reality of it is this game looks good for Boston, regardless of the turnout of Atlanta's year this season, because they're missing guys and they're still dominating basketball games. They walk into a building, they presume that they're better than the other team, and then they play like it. That's what that amounts to. Yeah, we saw the Boston Celtics get into the head of Kevin Durant, man. Blowing the kisses and doing all that stuff. This is a team that understands who they are. And they don't deviate from that plan much. And they keep their heads on a swivel. That's what makes them good. That's why they're off to a good start this season. Is 12-5 a great record to start the season with? No, but it's not horrendous either. You could do a lot worse right now, I'll tell you that much. There are a lot of people out there that believe that basketball is a player sport, but I'm going to tell you something. A coach in basketball can make or break a team by his ability or inability to bring them together, to keep them focused as a unit. When we see those sideline huddles, drawing up plays and something that is just, to me, my favorite part of basketball is, even at that level, I'm watching this and I'm just thinking to myself, man, it's just guys that really are still just kids at heart, man, just having fun and they're drawing up plays and they're into the game and they're excited. And you've got a coach that they either will listen to or they won't. Boston has a coach that gets listened to. Brooklyn doesn't. But that's because also the Brooklyn Nets, I think regardless of who the coach is, it doesn't matter how much fluff KD sends Jacques Vaughn. If you're an individual, you're an individual. Hats off to Boston. They played like a team tonight. That's why they won. Even with guys missing, that's why they won. And Marcus Smart is an integral part of that team, whether you want to believe it or not. He's an enforcer. He plays mind games. He's a rebounder. He's a defender. He is a huge piece of the puzzle of who the Celtics are. And that's all there is to it. All right, everybody, I am Drew Duncan. This is the Sync 57 Sports Show. We are wherever you're listening to the podcast. You can find us on iHeart, iTunes, Google Podcasts, et cetera, Tell your device to play Drew Duncan. Again, quick recap here. Kevin Durant just throws everybody on the bus. Nobody wants to take responsibility in that organization. They're a disaster, and I don't see that thing getting any better this season. Kevin Durant can say that trade is all about ball all he wants to, and he could talk about how he can play with anybody, anywhere, anytime, all he wants to, and that's his legacy, but right now it's not. Right now it's he ran out of Oklahoma City, joined a basketball team that was already ready-made for just about any superstar to come in there, regardless of what his stats or what he did in the finals, whatever that looks like. It was the result of the players around him being able to open things up for himself. Then he goes to another team, and he can't get it done. That's pretty much how people are looking at KD right now. If you want to put it in the simplest way, that is exactly it. And right now, it's his fault. Beforehand, really not so much. Right now, absolutely it is. Boston played the team game of basketball. It could be argued that they are the best team in the East. And I mean, hands down. No Marcus Smart, and they still dominate, man. Trae Young got his, but when doesn't he? You know? I mean, seriously. That's Atlanta basketball right now, is Trae Young getting his. And I love watching Trae Young play, but we'll see how that all ends up. But be that as it may, everybody stay safe. Take care of yourselves.